We're going to jump right into it, the spiritual foundation. Welcome, everyone. It's Sunday. Of course, it's after 9 a.m. because we started a little while ago. We're making this a consistent space because building a better Black Wall Street and a true economic system for Black Americans requires discipline. Before we dive in, I want to remind everyone of the foundational document for this movement, why I'm doing this, and why you should help. Keep that vision in mind as we talk today. Right now, I'm going to read off the 10-point roadmap of the ARK Project LLC's blueprint. This isn't just a list of complaints. This is our exact architecture for rebuilding. All right. Hey, thanks for joining, y'all. Appreciate the love. Thanks for joining. Appreciate the love. Okay, we're going to discuss the problems and the solutions. If y'all could share the live, we'd appreciate it. Okay, the problem. Number one is spiritual disconnection and theological confusion. Number two, absence of an independent economic system. Number three, intra-community violence and gang culture. 4, systemic erasure and historical whitewashing. 5, legacy of slavery and genocidal policies. 6, crisis of trust and disunity. 7, community media manipulation. 8, disintegration of the family. 9, political exploitation. And 10, psychological trauma and defeatism. So we're going to discuss those are problems. We're going to tackle each one with a solution because it's definitely a solution. But we're going to really go through one at a time. And the first one being, I think the most important, is the spiritual disconnection and theological confusion. So that's concerning, which a quick solution would be establish a foundational, studious relationship with the Creator to understand true worship and moral sovereignty. Now, we're not trying to convert anybody. Let's get that clear. Whatever you choose as your line of worship or your practice, however you believe, we want you to strengthen that, keep it, but at the same time, not just accept things based off of hearsay. We want you, hopefully you'll study and get a little bit closer or better understanding of how and what and how. I mean, why, all that. But anyway, that's the ultimate objective. Okay, so you just heard, all 10 points: economics, family, media, violence. But let me make one thing absolutely clear. None of those systems will work, and none of that wealth will last if we don't handle the very first issue. Our ultimate objective in all of this, the absolute main thing, is to convince our people to reconnect with Allah, God. I say Allah, I'm going to say God also because, I'm Muslim, of course, and all of you, most of you are not. So I figure you all understand that term God more so. But Allah, it just means the Almighty Creator. Okay, that's the anchor. If we don't have a foundational relationship with the Creator, every economic structure we build will eventually collapse. That's the first point. All right, so it's about a deep dive. The signs of the time. We need to look at that. So we want to focus on that first point today: spiritual disconnection and theological confusion. I want to ask y'all a question. Are you looking at the world around you right now? I mean, really looking at it. We are seeing signs every single day. The chaos, the division, the economic instability. These aren't just random political events. These are the signs pointing to the times we are living in. It's a loud wake-up call. We're being shown with the ways and actions of this world exactly why we need to get our spiritual house in order immediately. So I'm hoping that, we can do that to the best of our ability, at least initiate some type of way. So he'll hopefully, give us the spiritual energy to continue to go ahead through this. So we want to start with the origin, Adam and the cycle of prophets. If y'all bear with me. To understand how we got so disconnected, we have to look back at history. Go all the way back to the creation of Adam. In the beginning, the design was perfect. The relationship with the Creator was direct. It was obedience. And humanity had clear instructions on moral sovereignty. But what does history show us? It shows us a cycle. The Creator sends a prophet with the uncorrupted truth. The civilization receives it, they build, and they prosper. But then humans do what humans do. They get arrogant. They want to get their own thing. They distort the message. They change the rules. Historically, they even persecuted and killed the prophets, unalived the prophets. Because of that rebellion, the Creator has had to continuously send new prophets to reestablish the truth that humanity corrupted. Think about that. The theological confusion we see today, the reason everybody's arguing over what's right and what's wrong, is the direct result of centuries of people altering the divine message to fit their own desires. So that takes us to like the mind shift, and sort of call to action, sort of. So check this out. Where does that leave us today? It leaves us needing a serious mindset shift. We have to get out of our own way. We have to stop relying on blind emotion or distorted traditions that have, been handed down to us. The solution is clear. We must establish a foundational, studious relationship with the Creator. Notice I said studious, which means we have to study. We have to seek intellectual sovereignty to understand true worship. For this week, that is your directive, our directive. Start shifting your mindset away from the distractions of the world and dedicate time to actually studying the uncorrupted truth. That's how we reclaim our spiritual power. And that is exactly how we will build this ecosystem. Okay, so all that's going to take us in the direction of a transition, Now, I don't want to wrap this up like it's the end of the conversation. In fact, this is all we're going to focus on today. Next week, we'll move on to the second point on the list. But for today, I want this first topic, our spiritual disconnection, to be the main thing we discuss. The goal for today is to lay down a real foundation. We need to create a mindset of how we're going to move forward in our lives to truly reconnect with God, with the Creator. And look, however you studied previously, whatever you're currently understanding, whatever your current understanding of the Creator is, you don't necessarily have to detach from the core of that. But what we do have to do is introduce a true discipline aspect of study. When you really study the uncorrupted truth, you can finally discard the confusion because the truth adds up. It adds up just like 1 + 1 = 2, just that simple. There's no confusion in it because the Creator doesn't, he don't leave us in confusion. If you don't understand what you're being taught, if it doesn't add up logically and spiritually, then we need to look deeper and study harder. So as we talk today, I want us to get a crystal clear understanding of this spiritual foundation. Because once we get established, it's like once we establish this true connection and relationship with Him, the Creator, He will be with us. He will be with us. He will definitely be with us. And we are going to need Him with us as we move forward to tackle those other 9 points and execute the mission, we're building here. All right, let's open up. First of all, I'm gonna go back. I wanna try to help us understand, our problems our problems, but not just our problems. I want us to understand the solution. So what we're going to focus on today is the spiritual disconnection and the theological confusion, that we have. That's the main thing. So we have the technology. I'm going to be using chat, AI help, not to solve our problem. We don't have to do that, but we need fact checking. Case not so much as to try to prove anybody to be right or wrong. That's a whole nother topic, whole nother discussion. I want to get y'all to understand who I am. My name is Raheem Muhammad. I don't know if you all have been checking out my website. I'm the author of about 12 books. The main book is here. It's called Blueprint for Black America's Economic System. This is the main book. This is what all this is all about. But it piggybacks off of this book right here, A Better Black Wall Street. So what I'm talking about, it's not just, idle things, whatever. It's about what I believe is the most important topic on the internet. The most important topic in the world is the spiritual disconnection and theological confusion that we have with the Creator. That's why the world is in its situation it's in now. And that solution is to establish a foundational, studious relationship with the Creator to understand true worship and moral sovereignty. That's what has to happen. That's in a nutshell. So the next thing, that we have to deal with is absence of an independent economic system. That's where these two books come in hand. Which the first topic, I wrote a book. Whatever you all study, then you all study. Do that. Fine. Mine is to help those that's looking, that's searching. And it's a book that I wrote called Study to Show Thyself Approved. Islam, the fastest growing religion on the planet. And the reason I wrote this book is not so much to try to convince anybody of anything. It's to show people why this is the fastest growing religion on the planet. It uses footnotes, it uses biblical scriptures, it uses Quranic verses, it uses history, theology, it uses math, it uses science, all in a nutshell to prove and help people understand, what's needed. So it's not to convince you of anything. This is not that type of group. These are just some books that I wrote. There's another book I wrote right here called Truth is in the ARK. It's over 200 spoken word poems. I also do that. We have a version. This is the version 2, the second edition. This is the first edition right here. I wrote a book, the first edition, Oh Say Can You See Secrets, is the very first book I ever wrote. And this one here is the second edition to that one. So all my books are online. You can go to my website, the arkproject.llc, go to books and products, and you can see all the books right there. Those are the books that I wrote under my name, Raheem Muhammad. And I have other books that I wrote under pseudonym Kareem Parker. This is where I write my romance novels, and they are based on Christian Muslim romance, Christian religious dialogue. I forgot what to call it, but we won't get into that. The first book here is Mecca's Quest. We have Unlikely Entanglements, Part 1, Unlikely Entanglements, Part 2. And Part 1 and Part 2 of Unlikely Entanglements is a Christian Muslim romance. The first one where it's the Muslim man, he's falls in love with a Christian woman, they get married, etc., etc., etc. The second book is a little bit more difficult. It's a Muslim woman and a Christian man, and etc., etc. It's more difficult because of the restrictions that's laid on the female Muslim. But anyway, the next book I wrote is called Brushstrokes of Desire and Chicago Skies and Crescent Moons. Those are the books I wrote, but they're under my pseudonym, Kareem Parker. The other books are under my name, Raheem Muhammad. You can go to my website, Books and Products page. It's a link in there. Take my author page on Amazon, and you can purchase books that way. You can support the author by purchasing books inside of my website. That helps support us, and it also helps establish the economic system we're trying to do, because 10% of the sales from that goes directly to the economic system. The website breaks down the economic system exactly on what we're trying to do, and shows how people can get more actively involved in it. So we're hoping that you all will check that out. Okay, now, That's until number two. The point number two is absence of an independent economic system for Black America. Because when you look at history, we've never had our own economic system. Everybody has one. Everybody, Caucasians, Jews, Hispanics, everybody except for us. We've attempted to establish it with Black Wall Street and a lot of different attempts, but every situation that we tried to do, that's what they didn't want, so they destroyed them. We're in a different time, different age. They can't do it. And these books right here show how. So we won't get so much into that yet until we go to, I guess we'll do that next week when we get deeper into that point two. Today, again, we're going to focus on the spiritual disconnection of theological confusion. Now, point number three is intra-violence and gang culture. Because I believe, oh yeah, number two, we said we're going to mention the solution to a quick solution for number two, establish localized group economics and cooperative enterprises to circulate resources internally. That's deeper. We'll get into that next week. Third week, or the third point, is community violence and gang culture. So the solution to that is implement community-led mediation and accountability programs to rebuild neighborhood safety. My thing is concerning that I believe that gang culture is one of the tools that when I say, I have a phrase that I say, Caucasians in black skin. And what I mean by that is we have been systemically assimilated. We don't think for ourselves. If we did, I don't think we'd be doing this, because historically, we really never had this type of violence with you. They say in Africa you had tribes against tribes, whatever. That's beside the point. My thing is, in civilized culture, as far as the black race, it's never been like this, as far as this type of harm that we do towards each other. But that's a mindset. It has to do with certain propaganda that's fed to us, what we're taught to believe, what we're shown from at a young age, the violence that's fed to us. You have to understand that. If you don't understand it, then it's a disconnect with reality in that case. The fourth point we're going to get into is called, what I just mentioned, systemic erasure and historical whitewashing. So the only way we can do that, in a nutshell, is to reclaim the educational narrative through independent curriculum and media ownership. Media, that word is going to pop up a lot, because media, and it's certain peoples that has control of the media, and that's the reason why we're so caught up into systemic erasure. And when you look at it, it's like, our race is a race that's survived, and it has a character based off of the outcome of slavery, surviving slavery, how they took everything from us, everything, our culture, our language, our creator just took everything, stripped it out, and then put a bunch of stuff that they put together and put it in our head. Then they put our head on backwards and then said, go ahead on out there. And that's what we have now, with the gang violence and all that that we're looking at right now. So that's systemic erasure. We have to reclaim the educational narrative through independent curriculum and media ownership. We have to own our own media, so we can. That's the same thing with the with the accountability programs. We have to own. We can't continue to wait or depend on these other outside entities fixing us, fixing our mental status, our children. And it's like, anyway, we'll get deep into these things as we go on week by week. And we're hoping that, you all will come through and support, share the live and stuff like that. So that's systemic erasure and historical whitewash. The next one is the legacy of slavery and genocidal policies. So that speaks for itself. But the solution is to construct structural buffers against institutional racism and pursue localized self-reliance. All it's going to keep falling on self-reliance. We have to do it. We have to do it. If we don't do it, then we continue to fall deeper and deeper under the bottom. You know what I'm saying? So That speaks for itself. Then the next one is crisis of trust and disunity. Our main problem, we're so unsuccessful in trying to connect today, is we don't trust each other. And my thing is, we have all these different organizations, the NAACP, the Black this and Black that, but what have they really done? I mean, true enough, sometimes something spectacular happens, or crazy happens. Somebody get unalived, and then NAACP sends somebody out there to represent us, and this and that, the third, whatever. But we need an economic system. We need to be able to establish our own jobs, our own infrastructure. We have to be able to do that, so we can put money, we can create jobs and our own entities, economic systems, so we can have our money circulating, recirculating back into our community. And see, I always use this analogy right here. I say that the churches, the synagogues, a lot of the religious organizations, they've been out in front to be able to do these things that I'm talking about, but they are some of the ones that really failed us. Some of them have an ecosystem that's going real good, and the best one right now is the Muslims with the Islamic communities. They buy neighborhoods, this and the third. But see, I'm talking about on the whole. I'm not talking about Muslim just help a Muslim, because Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, he didn't come and just establish that. He came to be the final prophet for humanity. And in that light, we have to look at our people as a whole. You look at the religious institutions, and the Christian institution, they was the worst with it, as far as their pastors, raising money for $1 billion jet and siphon all the money up out of the neighborhoods and the communities, and hoarding the money for themselves. One person being over that money, is corruption. So the people come and they donate the money. That's what the tithes are for. That's what the zakat is for. They donate the money, and the preachers take it and buy the $1 million mansions and certain things out there. It's mismanagement of funds, because that money is not the preacher's money. That money is the church's money. That's their money, and it's supposed to be people that's going to be managing that money that you can trust. That's supposed to have that money positioned inside of an economic system that they can create essential jobs, essential businesses, our own business, our own banks, where they can create jobs for the community. And then if they did this right way, the jobs, the 100% of the profit will recycle back into that economic system and grow. And the people's tithes with that money would grow, establishing more businesses, where it would create a system that religious institution is creating jobs and don't have to depend on money from the government. They can get their hands out of the pockets of the government. They can create their own system, and the preacher's supposed to get paid, but not the money that he's getting. He's supposed to be comfortable, be able to afford a nice home and anything like that. If he wants more than that, he can go get a job. He can preach and get a job. He don't just take all the money, do what he want, and then at the end of the month, he begging for money to get the lights back on. They should have businesses where that money is recirculating, where eventually the people, the congregation, won't have to give any tithes anymore, because they have businesses. They can get a job from the church, from the mosque, from the synagogue. They can get a job from there, and it's an ecosystem that recycles back into itself. And it's an easy fix that's been around for centuries, since the beginning of the time. And when the children of Israel were here, the 12 tribes of Israel, they were here, they had an ark that they carried around. That ark wasn't just something that they just, carried around for nothing. They had all their valuables in it, and they had God's spirit in it, and they had their own economic system, spiritual system. Everything was within that ark, and everybody understood what the ark was for. And the Jews call it some kind of tithes. I forget what it's called. It's a complicated word. I can Google it, but we don't have to get into that. That's not the point. Then the Christians came along, they had tithes. You know what I'm saying? We get 10% of the tithes, or whatever percent of tithes, that they were able to use, could have used those tithes for the same system, create their own essential businesses, et cetera, own economic system. Then the Muslims, of course, we have the zakat, and that's what it's used for. And if people really got into utilizing those economic systems, those ties to zakat and whatever the Jews call theirs, if they use them properly, they wouldn't need money for the government. They create their own stores, their own businesses. They can invest in the barbers and how to own barbershops, but the barbershop has to be connected to the economic system where 10% of the barbershop's income goes to the economic system, the other 90% goes to the barbershop, the barber who own it. You know what I'm saying? The system has to be integrated like that. And we talk about how to do these things inside this book right here, Blueprint for Black America's Economic System, and with that, how to establish a better Black Wall Street. So now, the next thing we get into, and which one we just left off of, Crisis for Trust and Disunity. These books, my books, it talks about that. You know what I'm saying? As far as we don't trust each other, but it shows a system how it can be put in place where it throws trust. The trust factor goes out of the window, where you don't have to worry about trusting this person. And we'll get deeper than that during that little point right there. Next one is corporate media manipulation. And these are these corporations that exist that, did we read the solution? Build transparent, localized institutions that require a reward, cooperative action. Yeah, okay. So corporate media manipulation is where you look at entertainment industry, and you look at Puffy right now, Puff Daddy, whatever his name is. You look at what's going on with Jigga. I'm just throwing names out there. You all know what I'm talking about as you hear them. You look at the actors, the singers, the rappers, and how the industry has taken these people of ours, the sports industry, all of them, taking these people of ours and having them sell their soul where they can't even help us. So we had to do this on our own. Hopefully, some will come out of it. I think LL Cool J and somebody else will be getting together to try to establish some kind of economic system for us. I forgot who that other person, LL and somebody. But anyway, you got to look at how they're trying to do it. If they're trying to get together and help us by establishing kind of economic system, then, that money is going in there. Who's going to be in control of those two? It's not supposed to be like that. The economic system I'm talking about is going to belong to the people. And if you understood and read this book, you'll see how. Anyway, we won't get into that right now. Anyway, the solution to that is promote critical thinking and intellectual sovereignty to dismantle societal propaganda. We got to do away with that. So we'll repeat that. Disintegration of the family structure. Disintegration of the family structure. The solution is to reinforce family foundations through targeted, community-supported, reinforce family foundations through targeted community support systems and traditional values. We have to go back to that. If we don't, we hit. We have to do things to reinforce our family structure. You know what I'm saying? It's like those things our ancestors used to do that we don't do anymore. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, dinner's at 6 o'clock. Everybody is expected to be at the table. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's expected to be at the table. So I don't care. Put them cell phones down. Get off their laptop. Get at the kitchen table. We don't even care if you don't eat. You sit up here and we commune as a family whole. So now, that's the next one. The point number 9 is political exploitation. And that speaks for itself. How they've exploited us through politics. 1 minute the Democrats running things and they saying we're going to do it, we're going to fix it. We start voting for the Democrats and they just give us the shaft. And I got to watch my language because the thoughts be going through my mind about what I'd be want to come out. But I have to understand I can't do that here. Anyway, that political exploitation, they do it all the time. I'm independent, and I have to be honest with y'all. I voted 2 times in my whole life. That's it. And I sort of didn't want to do it anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's like I voted twice for Obama. But at the same time, when I saw how his presidency went, and how he was orchestrating, and he probably was a puppet, but he orchestrated how they did Muammar Gaddafi. He was a Muslim. This dude, man, he trusted them, and they just destroyed Libya. And look at what's going on. It's like every president comes in, they over in the Middle East, and we have to really understand that our position in this. we sit around and we, go home and go to work, go home, go to work. You know what I'm saying? Some of us pray, this, that, and the third. But at the same time, we disconnected from them over there. Palestinians, what's happening to them? Iran, you know what I'm saying? They've been feeding us that Iran is the enemy for years, for decades, that Russia and China and North Korea, and all these are places that just disagree with America. And America just rampaged. But they had their hand. They hid it for so long, but now Israel taking the lead because they're in charge now. We won't get into that. That's something totally different. That's politics, but that's exploitation. They try to cause us to side with them and what they do, and then we find out what they're doing. We don't have no control over it. They continue to just destroy the world. Anyway, the last point on the list is pride entails the whole 10 points, which is psychological trauma and defeatism. The psyche, trauma. What's that called? PTSD from slavery, from what they've done to us. But anyway, let's go back to number 9 because I didn't read the solution. The solution is leverage collective economic power to fund independent advocates beholden only to the community. That's the solution. The next one is, like I said, the psychological trauma and defeatism, and that solution is to foster environments of strict accountability and spiritual warfare to elevate collective consciousness. Okay, so we're going to be doing these things strategically every week. Every Sunday, 9 o'clock, we're going to discuss the problems and the solutions. So hopefully I can convince you all to go to my website and come on board. We have a board that we're looking for 12 other members, be 13, including myself. And that's going to be a structured board to try to orchestrate, establish, and regulate our economic system. That you all see complete business transparency, where the people how to say so and what we do and how we do. We need to do this. It can be done, but people look at me, and I don't know if they try to go off my appearance because I'm a strong black man, but I'm through a lot of different channels. I grew up. I went to school, graduated high school. I graduated a year early. I skipped 8th grade. I ended up going to college. I didn't finish college. It wasn't for me. I didn't want to. I ended up becoming a barber, cut hair for like 40 years. You know how that barbershop talk gets. You get a lot of time to study in there, certain things. But I'm the average Joe. I came through the hood. I've been in the Army. You know what I'm saying? I've been to college. I'm well-rounded. And it's like, I believe I have the solution. But I need help. I can't do it on my own. It's like you all, and I get a lot of people, come to my lives and they turn around and I don't know if they're spies. They don't share the love. They don't tap the screen and give me hearts and anything like that. I'm not here for that. But it would be nice to know that I'm not talking to a bunch of spies. And a lot of times I get active and I press the hi thing and say hi to everybody. And I try to do that. But when you're doing something like this, I can't do that because I be trying to focus so much on this. Hopefully, I'm going to cut this up and chop it up and I'm going to edit it. And I'm hoping to try to get you all to circulate it. All y'all that's here, I hope y'all come back next Sunday. It's going to try to do this every Sunday at 9 o'clock. We're going to talk about each point. I'm going to edit the points and the videos and everything like that. I'm going to put them up there. And every week, we're going to try to make this just real smooth. So we're going to end with that. And if any one of y'all have any questions, that's how we're going to end it. So with that being said, if any of y'all have any questions, y'all can feel free to ask. And I leave as I came. I say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have the Muslims that know what that means. And we're going to end on that note. Thanks for coming out.